Season 3, Episode 13, The Boiled Fish. Boiled and accusing. 3 scientists, Papaia, Banani, and Ravioli, and their assistant Igor work at Nassau. When they start taking an interest in creationism, their superiors send them to a psychologist for evaluation. The psychologist, Professor Fagioli, is a shady character, determined to get them fired by making them seem crazy. Ravioli is the first to enter. We're in Professor Fagioli's office, where Ravioli's session is underway. Ravioli. And then 3 times a week came the worst dish of all. Boiled fish with broccoli. Fagioli. Boiled fish with broccoli. My favorite dish. Igor, voiceover. Seriously? Ravioli. So on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, there was fish with broccoli, and I hated it. I just couldn't swallow it. On those days, I'd spend all of after-school time sitting at my little desk, the white eyes of the boiled fish staring at me from the plate. Fagioli. Boiled and accusing eyes. Igor, voiceover. Sorry, but is this guy for real? Ravioli. You said it, Fagioli. Fagioli, loudly. Boiled and accusing eyes. Ravioli. It was just an expression, Professor. Igor, voiceover. Wait a second. So for Ravioli, boiled and accusing eyes is a legitimate observation. Ravioli. Anyway, one day I had an idea. There was a way to make the fish and broccoli disappear without anyone noticing. Fagioli. By eating it, of course. Ravioli. No, that idea wasn't even up for debate. Fagioli. Then how? Ravioli. A much quicker and painless way. Igor, voiceover. With a napkin on its head? I mean the fish. How funny. The sentence. 3 scientists. Papaia, Banani, and Ravioli, and their assistant Igor work at Nassau. When they start taking an interest in creationism, their superiors send them to a psychologist for evaluation. The psychologist, Professor Fagioli, is a shady character, determined to get them fired by making them look crazy. Ravioli is the first to enter. We're in Professor Fagioli's office, where Ravioli is recounting the time he refused to eat boiled fish at after-school care. As Ravioli tells the story, we enter the flashback. We're in Ravioli's after-school classroom, where little Raviolino, as usual, has been kept in detention, while the other children are all outside playing. Teacher. Come on, Raviolino, eat that fish. I'm tired of having to watch you every day. Raviolino. I really wish I could, teacher, but it just won't go down. Don't you have a plate of lasagna instead? Teacher. Oh, come on, Raviolino. Where do you think you are? This is the public school cafeteria, not an Italian restaurant. Raviolino. Another day of sadness. I can't wait for 6 o'clock to come. The teacher sees a group of colleagues chatting in a circle just outside the classroom door. Teacher. Raviolino, I'm stepping out for a moment. Make sure you don't get up from your desk until you finish that fish. Raviolino. Don't worry, teacher. Just as that fish will stay on the plate until 6 o'clock. I'll stay right here in my seat. Though I'm not sure which of us got the better deal. At least the fish will end up in the trash and never come back. I, on the other hand, will be right here tomorrow in the same spot. Ravioli lifts his eyes, but realizes he's speaking to himself. The teacher has already joined her colleagues in the hallway conversation. Igor, voiceover emotionally. Truly a pearl of childhood despair, worthy of a Russian novel, but for kids in detention. And Raviolino said, though I'm not sure which of us got the better deal. I wasn't sure anymore if he was talking about lunch or the human condition. The teacher probably wasn't paid enough to deal with the artistic inner torment of a sensitive, overweight child and his boiled fish fillet. That day, in the school cafeteria, a new artistic movement was born. Infantile expressionism. Ravioli didn't just want to avoid the fish. He wanted to be understood. But the teacher wasn't paid enough to engage with new literary movements. She had the state curriculum to follow. How funny. Raviolino's chance. 3 scientists, Papaia, Banani, and Ravioli, and their assistant Igor, work at Nassau. When they begin to show interest in creationism, Their superiors send them to a psychologist for evaluation. The psychologist, Professor Fagioli, is a shady character determined to get them fired by making them look insane. Ravioli is the first to enter. We're in Professor Fagioli's office, where Ravioli's session continues. As Ravioli recounts his after-school memories, we return via flashback to Raviolino's classroom, where he's being punished for refusing to eat the fish. While Raviolino was complaining, the teacher stepped out to chat with her colleagues, leaving him alone in the classroom. Raviolino: "The teacher didn't even hear what I said." To test it out, Raviolino waves at the teacher, but she doesn't notice she's deep in conversation. Raviolino: "She's distracted. This is my moment. I can dump the fish in the trash and get back to my seat." Raviolino tries to stand up, but the teacher sees him. "Teacher, Raviolino, where do you think you're going?" Raviolino: No, I just had a little cramp in my legs, but I'm sitting right back down." The teacher returns to her chat, paying no more attention to him. Raviolino: "I can't get up without being noticed. What can I do? Maybe I could throw the fish into the trash from here." Raviolino uses the paper napkin from lunch to wrap the fish. He holds the bundle in his hands and raises his arms like a basketball player, but then he hesitates. Raviolino: "No, too risky, I might miss." Igor, voiceover. Raviolino lines up for a three-pointer, but then hesitates. I broke into a cold sweat. It was like watching LeBron James, about to miss a game-winning shot, but with a boiled fish fillet instead of a ball. These are the moments that make this sport exciting. Sport? Oh, right, I forgot, it's boiled fish. Raviolino keeps thinking. As he concentrates, his empty paper cup accidentally falls into his open backpack. Raviolino: "How funny. The cup fell right into the backpack." A light bulb goes off in his head. Raviolino: "Eureka. I can drop the fish into the backpack too." Igor, voiceover. When Newton saw an apple fall on his head, he discovered gravity. Ravioli, on the other hand, had a dirty paper cup fall into his backpack and discovered how to trick everyone. See, it all fits. Newton was a real scientist. Ravioli, well, even as a scientist, he's a scam. How funny. The backpack plan. 3 scientists: Papaia, Banani, and Ravioli, and their assistant Igor work at Nasal. When they start showing interest in creationism, their superiors send them to a psychologist for evaluation. The psychologist, Professor Fagioli, is a shady character determined to get them fired by making them look insane. Ravioli is the first to enter. We're in Professor Fagioli's office, where Ravioli's session continues. As he shares memories of his after-school days, we return via flashback to the classroom, where little Raviolino is trying to get out of punishment for refusing to eat fish. With the idea of hiding the fish in his backpack, Raviolino wraps it in a napkin and quickly stuffs it between his books, but then immediately rethinks it and pulls it back out. Raviolino, wait a second. She'll never believe me like this. I need to leave the bones on the plate. Raviolino, with a disgusted look, removes the fish from the bones. Raviolino, gross, but imagine if I actually ate it. That'd be worse. This time, Raviolino leaves the fish bones on the plate and wraps the rest in the napkin and pushes it all to the bottom of his backpack. Raviolino, perfect, a master stroke. Now, even if the teacher looked in my backpack, she wouldn't see a thing. Igor, voiceover. In this case, the rule, never leave evidence, didn't apply. On the contrary, Raviolino figured the key was to leave a clue, a little fishbone for the lunch detectives. The brilliance. Raviolino raises his hand to get the teacher's attention. She comes over. Raviolino, teacher, look, I ate it all. Teacher, surprised. Well done, Raviolino, I can't believe it. I'm proud of you. The flashback ends as Ravioli continues his story in Fagioli's office. Ravioli. And so that day, instead of sitting out the afternoon, I went out to play with the others. My classmates were surprised to see me too. From that day on, the teachers thought I had started eating fish, and I never got punished for it again. Igor, voiceover. Ravioli. The great illusionist making fish and problems disappear. What he didn't realize is they always float back to the surface. And as always for ravioli, they do it in the most embarrassing way possible. Oh, how funny. A catastrophic event. 3 scientists, Papaia, Banani, and Ravioli, and their assistant Igor, work at NASOL. When they begin to take an interest in creationism, their superiors send them to a psychologist for evaluation. The psychologist, Professor Fagioli, is a shady character determined to get them fired by making them look insane. Ravioli is the first to enter. We're in Professor Fagioli's office, where Ravioli's session continues. Meanwhile, in the waiting room, Papaia and Banani are still discussing the book. Papaia, you were talking about a type of shellfish. What were they called? Nautiloids? Banani. No, not nautiloids. They're a kind of shell, yes, but with a squid living inside. And using it like a submarine. Papaia, like a kind of hermit crab? Banani. No, Papaia, hermit crabs steal their shells. Nautiloids grow theirs. Papaia, like turtles? Banani. Yeah, turtles with tentacles. Papaia. Okay, got it. But why are they important for the book? Banani. The book talks about a layer of limestone in the Grand Canyon called the Red Wall. This layer, about 2 meters thick, stretches across an area of roughly 30,000 square kilometers. And in it we find billions of fossilized nautiloids buried alongside other sea creatures. These squid-like fossils come in all sizes, from the smallest and youngest to the biggest and oldest. Papaia. That clearly points to a catastrophic event. Banani. The book says that to cover such a huge area, about 100 cubic kilometers of limestone sand were needed. Papaia. That's an enormous amount. Banani. Not only that, but to overwhelm such a large community of creatures, the sand had to flow like a thick soup, moving at about 18 kilometers per hour. Papaia. A rather hard to digest soup. More than being digested. It was the soup doing the digesting. Papaia. How foolish I was to believe in evolution. The book is right, Banani. If we assume the Bible is telling the truth, we find so much confirmation. Igor, voiceover. Before discovering Banani's book, Papaia was just like the nautiloids. Big shell for a head, but nothing but air inside. How funny. Thanks for watching. SavedBlog.com.